Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, all color rovers. Thank you for being here again with St. Angela Talk Series 4. I hope you are doing well. Keep safe because we believe it will get better soon.
Okay.
As, as a choir as a choir director, we all know there are many musical, non-musical, and technical elements of choral program needs to accept. You need to teach the healthy technical aspect of voice production and also choral singing. The well-being of the singers must be monitored. We will foster the creation of the choral community that values its members. The skills in the art of choral music must be shared. However, one of the most important ingredients to building the healthy choirs is often ignored. That is the creation within the choir of a brave approach to creativity and composition, processes that actively include or involve singers, directors, and composers. The question is, do we need to work with composers? As I think, yes, we must. As choral musicians, we need to support and embrace composers in every aspect of our work. Choral music composers are the creators of the sound, the narrators of our music, the storytellers. Creative composition is our future, the future of choral music. Composers come in all shapes and sizes, genders, and from all cultures. This afternoon, we have Kentaro Sato from Japan, and he will be with us to talk about freeing your creativity, or we can say freeing the writing imagination of the compositions, because he is the composer. Hi, Kentaro Sato.
Hi. Hi,
Can,
Ronnie.
can I call you Ken?
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Of course.
because we have also Ken Steven here, the composer from Indonesia. We call also him Ken. So I call you Ken. We are so happy and feel so blessed to have you here and talk with us. If I am not mistaken, I met you in Tokyo with Saint Angela Choir. It's 9 years ago.
Is that long? Wow.
when
Maybe.
we are invited to sing in Kodomo Chorus Festival.
Yeah.
2011.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's 9 years ago. It's so long. Ken, when I judged several choir festivals, Ken, your works were often performed by many choirs in Indonesia.
That would be. Oh, yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, such as Mae E, yeah, Ave Maria.
I see.
With Saint Angela Choir, we have also performed Veni Sancte Spiritus, your choir composition with organ.
Oh, I see.
And with Saint Lucia, I think it's 2003, it's a long time ago. We have also performed your Requiem Pacis.
Oh,
so
I see.
Your name is already well known through your works in Indonesia. Well, let us start the talk, series 4. And with us here is already my colleague, Nicholas Rio. Hi, Rio. He is also
Hello.
Hi.
Composer. He has composed so many songs for Saint Angela Choir, of course, and he is now also the pianist of Saint Angela Choir. Rio, let us start the talk. Before we start, you maybe will explain something about the
Oke, so pertama, I'm sorry, I will talk in bahasa for a while ya. Selamat sore semuanya. Kali ini SAC Talk-nya agak sorean, nggak semalam biasanya memang. Tapi seperti biasa aturan mainnya, kalau misalnya ada yang mau ditanyakan, silahkan ditanyakan di comment section. Mau pakai bahasa Indonesia, mau pakai bahasa Inggris, dua-duanya oke. Nanti akan kami bantu tanyakan ke Kentaro. Okay. First, before we start our SHC talk, I will introduce a little bit our guest today. Although he is very famous, but we still have to introduce him a bit. So, Kentaro Sato, born in 1981, Kenpi to his friends, is an award-winning composer, conductor, and lyricist. His symphonic and other instrumental works have been featured in TV or film media, game industry, and concert performing groups around the world, such as the London Symphony Orchestra, the Philharmonia Orchestra, and the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. In the choral music world, Sato is best known as the winner of the prestigious ACDA Raymond Wibrock Memorial Composition Contest for Kyrie from Missa pro Pace or Mass for Peace, which was premiered at the 2005 ACDA National Convention in Los Angeles. He is also a frequent guest conductor and lecturer for various choral workshops and reading sessions around the world. So once again, good evening, Ken.
Good evening or good afternoon.
Oh yeah, good afternoon in your place. Yeah, okay. Okay, so Ken, the time is yours.
Okay. So let's begin. Well, today, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this talk. Without this particular environment of the COVID-19, this talk might not happen. So that's one thing that I could thankful for. Although the situation itself is dire, but at least there is a good thing. Now, today I was, asked to talk about on the theme of freeing your creativity or the freeing our creativity, in parenthesis composition or not, or in general, freeing your creativity. Now, I would like to talk from the perspective of three different points. The one is the mindset or the environment that allows you to be creative or that, nurture the creativity. The second thing is skill. And the third thing is technology. Now, I probably will talk more on the general side, not exactly towards the music composition itself, but later you are, it's a free for you guys or that for the listeners or the audiences. If you have questions, please let me know if you have a specific questions. Now, let me just, fill a little bit of my background a little bit. Right now, I work as a composer conductor. I do work for the choirs, but also I work for the, the commercial music business, such as video game, TVs, and film. So I do have a more choral or the choral/orchestral or the concert world, and I also have a commercial world, and everything between, enables me to do other things. I was born in Japan. I raised in Japan up till 18-year-old, and I personally didn't think I would be a musician or the composers when I was a little. Of course, I loved the composition. Well, I love to compose. I love to create. I love music, but not exactly, so that I didn't think that I will be a composer. Although I do have a, the technological background to enable me to, use the computer to, write some music and so on. But I really didn't imagine become composer. When I was a high school student, I joined theater art club. And then that particular that club activity is a very, very eye-opener for me. So that, and then within that particular section categories or the activities, I was really good at writing script and so on. And I was very fortunate to have my script was accepted to the like a TV station. So I wrote, though I was a high school student, I started to work for the TV industries and radio industries when I was a high school student, and that led to my dream of when I had my dream at that particular point is to be a movie director or the film director, and then that a lot of things happened, and I was fortunate to be introduced to Scott Ross, who was a founding president of Digital Domain, which is a SFX company, which did all those special effects for the movie Titanic. He so recommended me to study in United States. So that's what I did. So when I graduated my high school, I moved to United States, majored in film. So and then tried to be a next movie director of Star Wars or something. So I worked a lot. But a lot of things happened, and then for some reason, my dream changed, my skill changed to, from movie or the film itself, first of all, the theater arts, to the movie. And then from that particular point, it got switched to the music. And for a lot of things happened. I was decent singers and so on. So I was able to join the choirs, and then that's how I started my choral music and the choral activities. But so in general, I went through a lot of different kind of area of arts, both theater as a script writer and an actor, and for the film as both animation, animators and directors and other things, and finally the music, the composers, and then my master was in choral conducting. So that's how I moved through my age. Now that's my general thing. So so please do not think like I only did the music, but consider me as someone who can kind of ate a lot of different kind of dishes throughout the life. The first Japanese dishes, and then Chinese dishes, and blah blah blah. I was fortunate to have that kind of a different kind of the varieties in my youth and background. So that's affected me a lot. So I will talk about that later. But so that's my general background. Now, so let me talk about specifically for the creativity. Well, people usually wonders about what is creativity and then how to be creative. Well, many people wish to be creative, I think. But for some reason, they kind of give up or whatever the things. But in my opinion, that's that people usually wants to be creative, and that's the usual thing. Now, but it's difficult to define the creativities, and then therefore it's difficult to aim at. So first of all, let me just think about what is a creativity and then so on. Now, I just read the Wikipedia, and then within that article, the creativity is defined as such. Well, the creativity is a phenomenon whereby something new and somehow valuable is formed. The created item may be intangible, such as an idea, scientific theory, a musical composition, or a joke, or a physical object, such as an invention, printed the literary work, or a painting. So that's the Wikipedia definition of creativity. Now, freeing creativity it's a very broad term, and then creativity itself is very specific. well, from the Wikipedia's article, it's something new and it's something valuable. But it's very difficult to aim that thing, something new and something valuable, which is very difficult. So we would like to take a little bit back, a relaxed term of, so back to the creativity, and then think about how we will approach the creativity itself. Although this Wikipedia's, definition is a very understandable and it's fine, but it doesn't help us much. So we'll be a little bit relaxed from this particular side. Now, in my opinion, nobody is born with creativity in hand. That's my stand. We learn to be creative, first of all, and we are allowed to be creative. And by keep doing or keep being so, we become creative. That's my stand. So, in other words, so how to free creative or the creativity, well, can be restated as how to nurture creativity, or what is a path to creativity, or something like that. So freeing itself, it doesn't mean anything, but we can nurture it if we are careful about it. So we'll talk about that particular thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would talk today. Now, I already told you that I would like to talk about it from 3 different perspectives, which is one is mindset, and the second is skill, and the third is technology. Now, let's just talk to the mindset or the environment. As I stated, nobody is born with the creativity in hand, I think. Well, at first, of course, we don't have any skills. I don't know any baby who are equipped with the knowledge and experiences of an Einstein or that the music itself. We learned, we experience, we grow. So we don't have a skills or knowledge or experiences at the very beginning upon which we do or build something. So we have to learn those things. And then in order to create something new or something valuable, we do need to have or know something before that. And then, and like a lot of things in our lives, and then in order to learn or those experience, we have to try. We need to try. Or that, in other words, it's a practice, but it's a try. And then because it's a practice, we inevitably will fail. And we learn from it and usually get better at it. So the prerequisite of the creativity or the prerequisite of learn anything is the mindset or the environment that we practice, or in other words, we try and fail. The environment or the mindset, we can try and then both fail. Now, it is important to know that nobody wants to be bad at anything. Well, naturally, we want to be good and we want to be, better at it. That's how we are. Nobody wants to be bad and keep staying bad if that's the case. Now, this tendency, the tendency to wants to be good and wants to be better at, is usually very noticeable when we work with kids or we do the activities with kids. It's usually how they are, who they are, and then what they are, and then they just want to be better, and then or the kids wants to be better and then wants to become good. That's normal for them, and that should be normal for us, anyone. But for something, as we get older, and many of us learn to fear something, or learn to fear making mistakes. We learn to fear others' opinion, and we learn to fear to be scolded at, or worse, get mad at. So we learn to fear the failure, to fail. But as I said, in order to be better or get good at, we need to try. And at the same time, we need to fail. And therefore, it cannot or may not allow to fail, or if we cannot fail, or if we cannot, allow to fail, for whatever the reasons, our growth will usually stop. Because we stop trying. We just give up. We didn't do anything. If we didn't do anything, we don't fail. Therefore, that's good. So that's a very bad mindset. Of course, if we didn't try, we will not make a mistake, or that, of course, it's natural. That will not make a failure, but at the same time, we will walk away from success. Now, so it is very important to have a mindset that allows us to try and allows us to fail. At the same time, environmentally, we need to have an environment which encourages us to try and fail. Now, in other words, a challenge must be more valuable than a failure. Now, this is a very basic notion that anyone knows that. But if I say a little bit more, we should think like a challenge must be more valuable than a success. It's a different from little bit different. More valuable than a failure is one thing. More valuable than a success is the other thing. So the success or failure, that's the result, and we don't care. The important thing is we try. Now, being creative, we have to know or learn or equipped with something, and in order to do that, we have to try and fail. And in order to try and fail, we have to have a mindset or the environment which enable us to try. Now, this is very important, especially if we are working with the kids, because they are, it doesn't necessarily kids, but it is very easy to discourage people. It is very easy to, kill someone's heart. That's very easy stuff to do. Killing is much, much easier than nurturing things. So we have to be very careful. And then when I teach or that conduct in front of choirs and everything, I usually encourage those things. Of course, we want to be good at and make a good performance and so on. But more than that, it's very important that we do try. And then if the result is bad, it doesn't matter. Then the important thing is we tried. And that's the most important part of it, and that's the only thing we are. That's the only thing that we value. That's a very powerful notion, but I think it's very important. And then that's a prerequisite of any creativity. It's the mindset and it's the environment. Otherwise, we're not gonna try. And if we're not gonna try, it's no good for any creative work because we just don't do. If we don't do, of course, there is no something new or something valuable. It doesn't happen. So the creative act or itself doesn't necessarily create something new or something valuable, but it creates something. So it doesn't have a value on all, or it's not maybe something new, but it's a challenge or that it's a try, and that must be encouraged always. So that's one thing that which is important. So freeing creativity, the one thing you have to have a certain mindset to try and fail. So that's the first thing that I would like to point it out. And this, without this one, nobody will be a creative. But this doesn't matter either. It's a creativity in the music or whatever the things, the business or other things. But those trial and errors is a really, really important. And I cannot stress more.
Yeah. Before you continue your talk, I remember that quote: "Whatever your dreams are, whatever your dreams are, you get there with practice." So, can you really practice being creative?
I would say yes, but from a certain, the other mindset is important, but the practicing is, I think it's at least it's a prerequisite. You have to have a certain things. Now, whether it is a new thing or that creating something valuable thing, that's a different thing. But anybody have a certain, solutions or that a certain method or that certain ideas, they can actually create something or they can come up with those things. And of course, there are, bad ideas and other things too. So that, practicing creativity is, in a way, I think it's possible. But the other, so encouragement must be there. And then, the other aspect, which is the fusion of the ideas, but probably I will talk about later. But, whatever the dreams are, that, practice makes you, to get there. That's I think it's a general notion, and I think it's a correct notion too. The practicing, you can, rephrase it as if you try and error, or if you keep trying, you will eventually get there.
Yeah.
And, you have to be a little bit smart, but that's a generally yes, in my opinion. So that's that. Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing that I would like to talk about is the skills and tools of a creativity or the creative outcome or that creative process. Now, it is often the case we are only be able to make something with the tools we have, because our tools largely determine how we work or think or proceed or process something. For example, if you have a Chinese cooking knife, Chinese cooking board, and Chinese food ingredients, and then the vegetables and those things, it's very easy for you to make a Chinese food. Now, those things does matters, and then if you play piano, you might be you kind of, it might be easier for you to write for piano. If you don't know anything, well, if you don't know about the flute, it might be difficult for you to write for flute. Of course, there are the degrees of differences, but in general, what you have, or both tools and mindset, those are other mindset. But those things are usually determines your limits of imagination in a way. We can only create what we can imagine. And of course, there is a creative work purely by chance. That happens sometime. It happened to me, but usually that happens earlier in the career. But more you age, that by chance thing will inevitably decrease. So basically, your tools and then experience and knowledge and the other background is those things is your sources of imagination. And then richer you are in this regard, more imaginative you would be. And therefore, if you have right tools and the passions and time, you could do something creative. from it. Now, imagination is other things. Being creative, the creativity itself is result, and it's born from the imagination usually. So and the imagination itself is limited by what you have. So the first thing that you need to do is to increase your scope of imagination in a way. And how you do that? Well, the first thing that from my background, I already told you that I did experience a lot of different area of art, which is, the script writing, which is writing itself, which grow into my lyric writing later, of course. And I act on stage. I still do a voiceover for many clients around the world, both Japanese and English, and so on. And of course, when I did the film, I do computer animations and the computer design. So I will be able to make a design or the artwork that can be done because I had a background doing that, practicing those things. And then, of course, later I learned to compose more solidly, and I composed for the different kind of music and so on. So having different background or the source of imagination is really important. And then skills and tools, as I said, those things will determine what you will make. You probably will not be, if you don't have certain skills or certain things, there are limitations on what how or what you will be creating. So increasing those imagination or skills, those things does, make, or at least free your limitation in a way. And because for that, that leads to the third categories of technology. But generally, more you can do, more you will be free. The freer you will be. Yeah. And that's very important in this day and age of, everyone, the day and age of everyone can be an artist kind of time. Now, from perspective of music composition itself, there are certain things that I kind of felt important in terms of mindset or the skill in order to create something, creative work. And this is actually similar to my background as a scriptwriter or the storyteller. And that is the ability to see the structure or the form or the goal in a way. What I mean by that is that when I was a high school student, it was very easy for me to write a script, like 1 hour theater arts or that 30 minutes animation script or something like that, which is it became very easy for me. And then people asked me, why was that? And I usually answer this like, because I know where I go, because I, and then the things that I notice is that, people, let's say there's an individual who wants to write a novel, like a long novel, like a next level of Harry Potter or something. Mm-hmm. Now, Harry Potter itself is a long novel. It's like a 50,000 to 10,000 words, I think, in English word count. Now, that requires very different mindset or the goal set or that structural solidarity and solidness in a way to write something like that. You really cannot start write some big novel, long novel without any plan, or at least some of the plan. Now, it's the same as, the music composition or any other like a longer arts. It's very difficult to start. Well, let me rephrase. It's very easy to start, but it's very easy to complete. No, it's very difficult to complete. Because if it's a long, they will actually usually it gets lost within in the past. Japanese, let's say, the Japanese haiku, which is the shortest form of the poetry in a way. It's a 5-syllable, 7-syllable, 5-syllable structures. It's just that, and then it's a very short. Because it's a very short, the many people can actually structure it, or the Japanese people can structure it because the form is there, and then you have a certain rules, and then you can follow certain rules to make certain art form. Now, longer that particular creations are, or the bigger they are, it's very difficult to imagine the final goal or the entire structures. And as far as I see it, it's very difficult to run if you don't know the goal is. For example, there is a marathon. Well, you could say, just start running. I don't know the goal. I don't know. You might run like 100 miles or 100 kilometers, or like a 2 kilometers. I don't know. But you just have to start. And it's very difficult to run something like that. It's very difficult to run or do something if you don't know the goal or at least the finishing lines. It's just tiring, and then that those things does make spirit kind of withers in a way. But if there is a certain goal, let's say the goal is 100 kilometers from starting point. Okay, 100 kilometers, it's a very, very long, but at least if you start moving it, the number will decrease. Yeah. At least. But and then those things does matter. It's very difficult to run if you don't know the goals are. So then it's similar to the composition or any other creative work. If you know where you are, where you go, although that exact path, you might not realize that yet. But if you know the goals are, you can actually go. But if you don't know the goals are, it's very difficult to do. And then this advice: if you don't know the goals are, do not try to make something too big for you. It's just, it's a perfectly fine to start small, or start, let's say start small and start manageable, something like that. And the more you practice doing those things, you will be able to see better and see farther, and then you will learn. You might stuck with, okay, this is something that I did before. And that happens sometime. But at least if it's a second time, although that's not something new, it becomes, you probably will be faster second time, and that's actually, it's better. It's not a new, but at least you will be faster. Now, those things doesn't, it's a very important mindset. So that's my usual advice is, start small. Do not attempt to, be a next Beethoven you are still level 1. It's a novice adventurer. Don't go challenging the final boss. So it's very important. And then, it's very important to go for the quantity rather than quality, at least at the beginning of the career or the beginning of practice. It's very important, go quality to quantity. And then, being a perfectionist is really, load block for this particular thing, because, the perfectionist people usually keep working with the first thing they, doing those things. But in my experience, the ability of a composers or the levels of composers or levels of any creative artist is proportional to the number of work they finished. That's usually is. It's not the number of work they attempted to start. It's the finishing line which doesn't matter. So it's usually important to have a number. It's just work at it and then just do the numbers more, and then don't go for the quality at the very beginning of the things. And it's a fine to start small, and it's a similar to the competition too. I was lucky to be able to have a chance to write like a short compositions, and I worked as a Catholic church as their composers, and I composed a lot of like after communion meditation pieces, which only last like 20 seconds to the 1 minute. But every week or every church seasons, there's a short phrases, and then so that I have write something 20 seconds or to the 30 seconds pieces, and they got performed. So that actually is a very important practicing. Well, at least to me as a composer, that is a very good starting point. So, usually the composition at least like a 2 or 3 minutes. That might be even for the beginners. That it might be too long. So it's perfectly fine to start small or start short, and then just for the usual practice, they can actually read through. That might be, something that beginning composers might need. So that's the other things. Now, I probably will have to talk a little bit about the writer's block, which is, someone who eventually have a, dead spot that cannot write anymore or something like that. And that happens sometimes. And then there are tendencies why that happens. And I told you before, but the perfectionist people usually, fall into that particular block. The other thing is that this is actually a part of the music history, but we live in a society, we are living in the era that creativity or something new or something valuable has a value. Now, therefore, it has to be something new, something valuable. Otherwise, they don't have any meaning. Now, this is a very, very bad notion to fall into, because, at the early of the careers, everything is new for the, composers. I haven't done that before, so I wrote something from which, like, if this composer is 18-year-old, the 18 years of experience led to just first composition. Now, first composition is done. Second composition, from this 18-year-old experience, second composition is done. Third, okay, third done. Fourth, oops, I have already done this idea on the first and second, third. Now, now it's a trouble, because if he or she cannot reuse certain ideas, and then if he or she cannot find some new way of doing that, this particular individual is no longer be able to write, because there is no imagination, or there is no way to go. Now, so in this case, so the writer's block usually happens for the people who values the originality or those new things really well, or really high. But that's usually not good, at least early stage of a career, because inevitably you will run out of idea. You are just one person, and your life is, so much so. So you have to study, or you have to incorporate different ideas, or at least you have to try different areas, or, try marry different ideas. and you have to go for the direction you haven't gone before. No, those things is the, the how to avoid writer's block. So, but the easiest solution would be, it's fine to be uncreative in a way. It's perfectly fine to, something you just need, or that some other people, want you to write. It's perfectly fine. As I said, even though that's a second time you use the idea, the second time is faster, and the third time is faster. And the faster is better, so that's fine. It's perfectly fine to go that direction. So if you experience a writer's block, just go easy on yourself. It's perfectly fine to be normal. Perfectly fine to be, unimportant, and perfectly fine to be just ordinary. It's perfectly fine. But some people may find it something special. You don't have to, find it special. It's some other people's work to find something special. So, just go easy on yourself. So that's the thing. Now, lastly, I would like to talk about the technology for the creative work, or, the freeing creativity in a way. Unless other people knows about the existence of a creative work, the work itself doesn't exist in a way. It's just, if nobody knows, that particular existence is same as non-existence. It's a philosophical thing, but it's kind of true. If you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't exist. So it is very important to, have certain kind of outlet and be able to showcase in this day and age. Now, traditionally, the music competitions and other things, it's very difficult to showcase, or it's very difficult to, go beyond certain cultures or a certain time and age. But in this day and age of internet and then computers and then smartphones and other things, it's rather easier to be able to showcase your work. Everyone has a microphone, everyone has a video, and there is a YouTube and other things. And then, once that the score itself don't have to be paper. It can be digital. And then, those things can go beyond what the physical materials, the physical goods cannot go. So using those technologies, you have to increase, at least you have to market yourself or market your activities in a way. If I'm talking from business side, it's very important to have your digital address or something, the digital world, because that everyone can access to that particular world of if you create your digital world. Now, I was fortunate because I was able to use a computer, and I was able to make not only the design, not only the music itself in terms of score. I was able to design, and I was able to use certain current on-demand publication and those things. And then now I can create both electric publications in PDF on those things, and I also be able to, let's say, for the printed publications, those things are very easy for me to make. And of course, I create my own design, and I create my own internal stuff, and then those things are easier for me. And that can be done very easily. Well, maybe not easily, but that can be done if you know how to do it. And if I could do it, so can you. And then those things are very important, those mindset. Now, this kind of, do-it-yourself kind of mindset is very United States or the American way of thinking, I think. Do-it-yourself, which is one of the, ideas of the American value, but it is that. So using technologies, for example, this conversations and the online workshop is the result of, use of technologies. And as I said, I was not the musically trained since I was a little, but I was able to use computer. So that's one of those reasons why I was able to go or sneak into the area of the music world. I was able to make a computer. I was able to make a computer. I was able to make computer software in a way. So that's how I started in the music business. And but in other words, if you don't know how to use technologies, and if you only know the traditional musical way of doing that, like writing handwritten stuff and those things, you will be left alone in a way, because it's a very difficult, because of technology allows us to show to the world, but the competition is increased inevitably. So those technologies and probably linguistic skills. For example, I'm talking in English, and you are talking in English, and then of course the English is certain, the common world language in the business. And therefore, I was fortunate to be able to not efficient, but being able to use the Latin. I was able to create my own Latin lyrics with the help of my good friend. So in the choral world, the Latin is of course the world language. So having the proficiency on Latin is one of those things you can it's not market yourself, but create something new. Well, you can write something new using Latin, which for some people, which is good, because now it's a Latin, but it's not religious piece. Of course, I write a lot of religious piece, but not all people, let's say, there are many people who wants to sing in a secular theme or in Latin. So that's other things. But anyway, so that's the use of technology. Now, as far as Ronnie's the questions, whether creativity can be practiced or in a way. Well, I would like to stress yes, but you have to think carefully in a way, because now the competition is, it's a fierce. Music is a very competitive area of art.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it's nice to be able to use something, practical, and if you could create something special, and that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But there are already a piece existed before, and then you have to compete with the Beethovens and other masters. So you have to see where you can blossom in a way, where you can glow. And then you have to choose your area of expertise, or your area that you can be unique in a way, and you can be good at, or you can get the spotlight in a way. I was fortunate because first of all, I was born in Japan and then, studied in the United States. And I was able to do both concert work, choral, but the choral world, I was able to do both secular work and sacred work. And at the same time, I was able to do a concert orchestral work and a concert wind ensemble work. At the same time, I was able to work in the commercial areas of music, and especially the film industries and the video game industry and those things. And I was fortunate to have different kind of outlet, let's say. If I can only concentrate on one thing, and that might, so my career at least will be a little bit slower than, what I would have right now. So having a different kind of, those outlets, it does help. And then technology certainly helps to, emphasize or that heighten those, let's say, the marketing, marketness. But anyway, so if nobody knows that your creativity is same as non-existence, so you have to let other people know. At least you have to have friends or the choirs who can share your creativities. At least if you cannot share your creativity to the world, at least try someone who are close to you, and that's other things. Writing the more practical pieces for the musicians close to you, that's one way to go. So just do that. Which is very important in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so that's my usual 3 things, which is mindset and skills, and what the other thing is technology, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then, but anyway, I just want to recap just one thing, which is it's the most important thing in my opinion is the mindset. And then if you are teachers and if you are conductors, the environment, how you make a core environment which let other people creative or let other people try, and and then make an environment which make people feel it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
And then it's different than that following the success. It's a following failure in a way, but it's okay to be fail. It's okay to fail, and then in that case, the people start to try because it's only reward if one tries, and if there is no risk for failure. Of course, there is a reward for success, and then what will happen is that, of course, they will try. And then if they can try, there is a good chance of success. Well, eventually, you will get there. Might take time.
Yeah.
So that's what I would stress in this particular talk. Sorry, I think it's taking a lot of times, but
It's okay.
Well, Ken, it's my simple question about you said that perfect can block your creativity.
Oh yeah,
Okay. You guys have a perfect pitch.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I don't. That's one thing that the people.
I want to ask you. Rio has a perfect pitch. So, is a perfect pitch can block the creativity or not?
Well, let's say, first of all, I don't have perfect pitch. I have a relative pitch.
Huh? What?
I don't have perfect pitch.
Okay.
So, the perfect pitch is just a way to think or to see the world in a way, in my opinion. Now, perfect pitch does allow certain people to do certain things better than relative pitch people. For example, diction and those things, the recognition part, that's a very, if you have a perfect pitch, you are very good at. I usually tell to my student that the ability of the composer is not about judging other people's pitch. The abilities, the composer is how you will get the pitches inside of you. And then it's a method, doesn't matter. If you know the pitch, that's fine. But if you can find it on the piano, that's fine too. And then I also say to this to my student, but because I have a background as a writer, and of course Japanese calligraphy is a very big in Japan, and I think China's that beautiful writing and those things. So I usually say this one. Okay, incredibly professional calligrapher, perfect handwriting, those people. The ability to write a novel is nothing to do with ability to write a good letter. It's nothing to do with it. It's just ability to write a piece. It's ability to write a piece. It's only that.
Yeah.
So even though if you have piano skill, of course it helps. Well, I'm a probably world worst pianist in a way. I don't play piano. Of course, I have a certain keyboard skills, but my keyboard study is like 2 years when I was like a 4 or 5. It's just that's that. So I cannot play any classical piece. I can barely manage the Bach's invention. That's the thing. But I can write for the piano if I can, have a certain tools. So that's the thing. So, well, I wish I could have a, perfect pitch. That sometime I feel that way, but ultimately it doesn't make. Oh, that's not the only way to be a composers. Or answering your questions, the perfect pitch people, in my opinion, tend to concentrate on the pitch more than color. That's what I think. Because
sometimes I agree with that.
yeah, the color is different. It's let's say the perfect pitch is in other words is the ability to recognize the fundamental pitch. That they are very, very keen at certain kind of the fundamental pitch, the perceived pitch. Relative pitch people are those people who are keen for the relationship.
Emotion,
Yeah, relationship of the intervals on those things. And the color is nothing but relationship of the overtones and all those things. So that's one thing, and then it's not a bad or good. Both people can do those things, but I felt that way. So if you have a perfect pitch, and if you are composers, you might want to sometime concentrate on that the color more than pitch. And if you are relative pitch people, it might be better for some time concentrate on the pitch itself. Those things are some my usual advices, but both have a it's a perspective thing. It's very different.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. That's why sometimes I used to say that a perfect pitch is both a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just a way to way of recognize or see world or the perceive the world, and which is very unique in a way. And
yeah. Okay, Ken, we have a question from our viewers. This is from Mr. Agastya. He is a lecturer in Central Java. Actually, 3 questions from him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the first question is, he wants to know more about your Wiseman project. What was the primary idea behind the Wiseman project, and why you choose that name? Okay, that's the first question. The second question is, how and why did you change the style of your music in 2019's Sacred Choral work? 2019's Sacred Choral work. So your work last year. How have you changed, and why did you change the style of your music?
Oh.
Okay.
Did I change? Okay. Wait, anyway.
Okay. And the third question is, how do you find your Japanese through your music?
How do I what?
How do you find your Japanese through your music? Because obviously you born in Japan, but as you mentioned, you go through education in US. And how do you keep your Japanese, your original roots in your music?
I see. Well, let's just start with the first question. What is the Wiseman project, and why I chose that name? Now, this is a joke. My name, first of all, Kentaro, it just means wise man. That's the first thing. And then when I went to the United States, of course, I wanted to be a next, movie director. So I needed, I needed to, make my own movie studio name or the
Okay.
production name. So there's a Lucasfilm. Okay, there's a DreamWorks. Okay, there's a Wise One Project. So that's why. So that's why I decided that name. So it's like a Kentaro Sato project. So that's what that means. And I stuck with it ever since, when I was 19 years old. So ever since. So that's that. So the second question is the why I changed my
Style of music.
style of music.
19 Sacred Choral Group.
19?
Sacred choral work for your sacred choral work.
2019, I mean.
2018. Well, I'm not sure exactly the that term or that which piece that he or she talked about. But as far as my choral or sacred choral writing, since I was start writing my careers, it kind of gets to the different kind of stage. First of all, I started as a the church composers write a lot of smaller pieces or the shorter pieces, and then when I got the award, ACD award, American Choral Directors Association award, that particular piece was like a 8 voice spiritual the a cappella pieces. So earlier in the career, so especially when I was in the United States, I wrote lots of pieces in a cappella, also in divided voices. And then when I moved back to Japan and those things, of course I kept doing those a cappella advanced pieces, but that the people then I started realize, okay, the world does not comprise with the advanced choirs only. So so naturally I was asked to write a lot of more accessible pieces. I did wrote that when I was in the United States, but I got more request to write that area, especially after 2011, the earthquake and tsunami thing, because that particular event changed my style in a way. I wrote Mae, which means forward. I think many of you knows the piece, but that piece is my first attempt to write accessible pieces, which has a very different kind of performance opportunities. And then I kind of cultivated that area a lot. So that's what I did. And then I'm not sure that what I did for that in 18 or 19, but anyway, if I have a chance, I would like to write for advanced pieces. But at this particular point, I am more willing to write the accessible pieces, both a cappellas, the pieces which have the possibility to go a lot of direction, like the pieces can go with either a cappella or with accompaniment, or if it's accompanied, the core pieces, the accompaniment can be like orchestra or the chamber orchestra or the piano or the organ or something like that. So that lots of the performance, the pieces with lots of possibilities. That's what I have been writing recently, I think. I'm not sure that I answered the question, but that's as far as I recognize myself, that's what I have been doing. Yep. And then third question was that, what was that?
Okay, the third question was, how do you find your Japanese still in your music?
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. This is something which I kind of decided earlier in career, that although I am a Japanese, I born in Japan, but I don't necessarily go for the Japanese, like a Japanese way of sound. Let's say like that. For example, I do write a lots of arrangement of the kids pieces or the arrangement pieces, which incorporates the traditional kids songs. And it's traditional in a way it's older. It's like a 50 or 60 years old, 100 years old song. It's not traditional like the traditional pieces. That's pretty much what I would go. Let's say there are composers who compose or who wrote traditional pieces like the folk song and those kind of pieces, and I determinedly decided not go for that direction in a way. Mm-hmm. Now the reason is it's a very simple that I wanted to go for the international route in a way. Now, this is something that I kind of felt studying the music history. If you are familiar with the music history, in the Romantic era of 19th century, there are different kind of movement. Of course, the Germans are there. Yeah. German authentic are there. Yeah. But there are nationalists, or what music historian called nationalistic movement. And there's a Russian and then a French and then those being there. But we never call German nationalist because Germans are the center of the world. So they don't have to be nationalistic because they are the one. The other people are others. But they are not German. Mm-hmm. So they have to have their own personalities and their own unique identities, in a way. But for those, but within those, the others areas like Russia, there are people who didn't go for the nationalistic way. Let's say the Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky is, of course, a Russian composer, but not necessarily wrote really Russian pieces. Of course, there are Russian influences. Of course, he was a Russian. So, but he don't necessarily go for that direction forcefully because he are not interested in going for that direction specifically. So he wrote what he liked. So that's what he did. And looking back from that particular perspective, you could say that those Asian countries, like our countries, of course, we are, from Western music perspective, it's a developing country in a way. So, like Frenchies or the Russians in 19th century, there are people who wants to find national identities, and that's very natural. But I kind of felt, well, I don't really need to go that direction because, of course, I was born in Japan, but I studied in the United States, and I went for lots of, different kind of the world, and then I worked for the different countries, and so I am Kentaro Sato more than I am a Japanese, in a way. So I do write what I like to write. It might be something Japanese. Of course, I do write the Japanese lyrics and I do write for the Japanese audience. But I am who I am and not necessarily have to try to be, Japanese in a way. So that's the answer.
Okay. Yeah. There's another question here from Ars Dewi Darta. Mr. Ken, in choir concert, festival, or exhibition, it's easy to be creative in our performance. But what he means is how to create a creative performance in a choir competition. Because obviously everything is marked and you have to be perfect in some way.
Well,
so that's why perfect can block your creativity.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you have to be perfect in a way. So that's the first thing that blocks your creativity. So that's the thing. So what I usually do is, of course, it's a competition, so you want to, you get high marks and everything. But those perfectionist things itself does prohibit you to be creative. Now, the important thing is you have to set your goal. What is your ultimate goal? Is that having a highest mark, or you are creative? You are being creative.
The best performance.
So that's the thing. If you want to be creative, you have to, sometimes the priority must be there, and then sometimes being a competition itself or getting a high mark might be the secondary, or that it's not important in a way. So that's the thing. The first thing, it's the mindset, which is very important. So that's why I talked about it. Now, as far as the how to be creative in the competition, I would say to consider the theatrical aspect of it. Now, of course, the music is theatrical arts if it's a live art. Now, the music is the art of music. Now, that the core performance is, of course, the musical art. So the music must be there. But the musical itself is a theatrical art. So the presentation must be there. And the music itself is the art of time. So how you kind of structure the entire theatrical time, or that the audience's perspective of the music, is one other thing. Being creative is, as I said, if the audiences or that if the people don't realize it's a creative thing, it doesn't make sense. They have to understand that they have to recognize certain things, and then human recognition has certain, let's say, certain tendencies to do, like how you, like if, let's say, if there is a similar kind of, let's see, how should I say? Well, I should say this, of course. Because I worked for the film industry, in the film music world, there is a saying. Usually, there are three elements of music, which is melody, harmony, and the rhythm, right? In the film music world, we add color, so that it's a fourth element: color, music color, and rhythm, and the harmony, and the melody. Now, the time that there are those four elements has a different kind of time which affect, or the speed, let's say, speed of affecting people. Now, color is the fastest in terms of the time that take effect to affect people. The color is something you know immediately. The next is rhythm, next is melody, the last is harmony. Now, the time to get the audience to get tired of it is this order too. The audience will get tired of the color, and then rhythm, and then so on. So the harmony itself is, well, it takes time to affect people, but it's that the effect gets longer in a way. So being creative is that how you will manipulate those four aspects of it. If it's a music, only the music aspect. So think about how you change color more than other things. So you have to really, really consider how you can be creative to change, to introduce different kind of colors all the time. And by doing so, there are, you maybe develop the time, or you spend other times to, the audience to realize other things. But the creative part of it is the one thing that you could do is to think about the color. And the colors you have to change all the time. So that's the thing that you have to think about. And then the other thing is the change of pace. And the change of colors also, or change of outfit. Of course, you cannot change the outfit all the way through, but there are a little bit of things that you can do. Of course, there's like a, you take away some colors or something like that. Those things does affect people's perception of the color, or that those theatrical aspect of it. Now, you really don't necessarily, well, a purist will say those things are secondary. Let's say those theatrical aspect or the costume or that, order of those things. But I would say the music is the theatrical arts. So you cannot throw away those things. At least you have to be nice. But it's way better if you can introduce extra dimensions to music. And how you do it? Well, the one thing is, of course, if the sound is the color, usually people forget about that. So that's one thing. The other things, of course, that theatrical or the visual aspect of it. You can be creative about that one too. So I'm not sure whether I answered it, but that's usually one.
Yeah, actually, he has one more question
okay.
because what do you mean with color specifically?
Oh, okay. The color, in terms of the voice, let's say the choral performance itself, is that let's say, I would say the balance between how resonant you are and how bright and how dark you are, and the mixture, whether you mix breath or not. Now, what I do mean by that? Now, let's say, let's just simply say, let's say okay, there's a score and there is a word ah, right? So you could say ah, you could say ah, ah. Well, what I did, the pitch didn't change, but I mixed with the breath for the second time. Ah, ah. Those are the different sound. Now, the pitch itself doesn't change, but the color, the brightness can be changed, like ah. Those are very different kind of ah. Ah, ah, ah. Those did affect different kind of, stuff. I usually, like some of the competition, when I have time to talk to the audience, I usually say, okay, just say ah, and then they say ah, right? And then just imagine you won the competition and you drank beer or whatever the juice or whatever the things you like, and they say ah at that particular point, and then everyone say ah. Now, those are very different sound, and then those kind of color does affect people, and then does affect certain things, because when we speak, when we talk, those color change are naturally there because we have our own emotion, and then those color change, or not exactly pitch change, but things that change will be there. And some people, if it's a choral or singing, usually they have to project something, so you will kind of decrease or diminish the ability to make different kind of color, because you have to project so that the volume are there, but the variations of different kind of are, or those things are not there. So if it's a happy song and happy sounding song, although the pitch doesn't change, you can change the color a little bit, or the brightness within your selection of the vowels, and then you can change those things. And the other thing is that you can use the consonant a little bit to change different kind of color. Or let's say, if there's a English of like a shine, well, the shining or the shining or those things does have a sh sound, right? This sh sound itself, if you use it well, the shining, although it's a word itself has a meaning, this sh sound does put a little bit shimmer on the sound. Those things does works. And like w sound, those like w or F or those things. If you have M or N, those sound, those consonant, if you use it well, you can actually introduce different kind of color in a way to the song. It's it's a very difficult area of expertise, but because I have a background of the voice actors and those things, when you are acting, good actors will naturally introduce those things without thinking. Now, if it's acting, only one person, only one actress or actor, if he or she can do it, well, it's fine. But if it's because the choral art is a mass art, everyone has to do that, and everyone intentionally has to do to make the full effect on the color. So that's one of the things that's difficult. And then I think the choral directors can work. Many choral directors can work in this area, I think. Sorry, whether I answered your questions, but that's my color. It's not a pitch, but it's the overtones or the brightness or those things. And technically, it's how the ability to resonate, or whether you fully resonate your voice or not, and so on.
It's a vocal production, right?
Yeah, production, but within the vocal productions, there are specific kind of sound that you want to. And then the choral art itself is music, but I think it's acting in a way. So you have to have specific kind of sound. Of course, you can say hello, you can say same pitch, hello. That's a very different character. And you can choose to be, you can choose, well, think about what is the most appropriate sound or the color, which is independent from the pitch. So that's that.
So it depends on the score, the songs, right? The situation
So let's say the ethnic sounding song might requires a very different sounding, like in the traditional songs or Bach pieces or those things. So those are color change. So
Okay, I have a question for you as a composer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so you did mention, I think, when we are talking about skills, you did mention that you have to know the goal. You have to be able to see some kind of what is the end product, and you might not know the exact way to go there, but you should know your goal.
Right.
So I would like to ask, when you create your music, I believe that you have some kind of structure or some kind of goals. How is your creative process to create the music? Do you create the structure first? Do you create the forms first? Or what do you do?
That's a good question. First of all, it's if a choral pieces, of course, there's a lyrics. So the text will determine the main structures, I think. Or that, let's say that the text itself has a structure, or the language or that poetry has a structure. So you cannot diverge that much, because there are natural tendency of the natural, not the wants from the text. There are things like that. But if it's instrumental songs, you have more freedom. Of course, there are known structural, the forms. Let's say ABA form, or the sonata form, or the rondo forms, and those things. And then those things, I do think about those things. And then when I'm sketching, well, I usually don't do the sketch, but at least I will think about those things. Let's say, okay, I need to write a 5-minute piece or something. If it's a 5-minute piece, and then if the tempo is specified, then at least I do have, and then time signatures are specified, I do have certain number of measures, okay, 100 measures or something like that. I already know that. And if I put the memos, like say, this is a first idea, And then this is the second idea. All right. Then if I want to make, let's say, certain pieces from just two ideas, how now I can do that because, well, okay, there are certain kind of structural things that I can follow. So I will do this, I will do this one, and I will repeat this one here, and I will repeat this one, and so on. So because I already done those things a lot, so I could do this one from purely technical side. If you know the piece, the length, and if I decided the ideas, it's not automatic, of course, but I can see the structures in a way. Of course, there's A section, B section, A section repeated, B section repeated with the A section, on top of it, or something like that. So, so that's the technical side of the structure, I think. And so that's the answers, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And how do you? I think because you work in a highly commercial music,
Right,
yeah, you work in commercial music. So I believe that there is some kind of pressure there that you have to. There's some kind of pressure there that you have to deliver something that is very good to the industries. Okay, and you did mention that you have to create an environment where it's okay to fail. So how these two correlate? I mean, you work for you work for a very competitive niche, for a very competitive market where actually you cannot really fail that much.
Right, that's true. That is true. Now, but the point is, in the commercial world, you are not the boss. That's the thing. The reason why it's well, of course, it's very difficult to fail, and it's very costly to fail. So that's you have to understand in the commercial world. But you are at least fulfilling others' need. So that's the thing that you kind of think most. You are not thinking about what you want to do. We will be thinking what other people want me to do. So that's a very different notion. So as far as I kind of feel it, if you just get that position, like you are not the most important part. Most important part is the other's work, or that whatever the things. If it's a movie which is very important. It's not a you, it's a movie. That's why you do have to do everything for the movie's sake, not for you. Those team spirit usually enables those commercial composers to. It's not a fail-free, of course. There are composers or the occasions which got fired, but those. I think the forgetting your ego is one of the most important part of that working in the commercial business. So if you are egoless, if you really do everything you can for others or for the work itself, the final work, usually the result is failure free. At least the failure itself, failure is not optional, but you will try. You will try hard, and then to get there, I think. So that's the thing. But the other thing for me is that at least I have my other areas of music that I can fail at. So those balance is, I think, to me, it's very important. The balance between commercial work and, let's say, commercial work and the commercial arrangement work and the concert work. Those are, to me, it's having balance. Balanced work environment is very important in a way. So that's that.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, Karoni, I think he wants to say something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unmute your microphone, please.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's the last. The last question. So I get like Leonardo da Vinci say that art is never finished, only abandoned. Okay. The problems, of course, is that this take valuable time and energy for very little in return. I mean, I talk about don't revise an older pieces and endlessly. I mean, don't revise an older piece and endlessly. So, by all means, revise a piece if it needs some small improvisation before we share it with the world, but don't revise it endlessly to point of obsessing about it. So what do you think about finish the piece and move on? Or
that's a very important thing.
Yeah.
I think that being a perfectionist is I think what usually prohibits people to show the work. So of course I do my own piece, and I sometimes have to revise it to make it better or those things. But I know that making new pieces is fun in a way. Doing a revision is not a fun at all.
That's right. That's right.
It's not. It's just a task, I feel.
Yeah.
And then that's very well. Of course, there are sometimes which I have to do it for, let's say, the publication or those things, whatever the reasons. But as you said, it is not good. Keep revising the older work. It's just you have to move on in a way. Otherwise, you never can move on. And this is what I usually tell to my student. Of course, I teach composition at the university, so the students show the compositions to me, right? So there are tons of things that I say to this particular composition. But I always say that, of course, if you feel that there are things that you want to fix, it's fine. But don't try to incorporate everything that I say. No, never. But you remember things that I said, and if there are things that you can remember to the next piece, think about those things in the next piece, not this particular piece. It's very discouraging in a way, So the competition itself is a very personal journey in a way, and then of course as a teacher I have to give a constructive critiques and all those things. But as I said, it's sometimes it's a destructive to keep only working in one competition. So just keep moving on. If you finished, and then moving on. If you finished, moving on. So that at least at the beginning of the career, I think it's a very important. And if it's a later of the career, if they want to go back, then fine. But if it's a later of the career, most likely other people can do editing for you, so that's fine too. So unless it's absolutely necessary to do, I think it's way better to move on to the new pieces and then incorporate what you learned from the old pieces to, and then use that knowledge, not fixing the old pieces, but to make new pieces. If it's new in terms of the ideas, it's fine. But if you are reusing the older idea, it's fine. If it's a second time, at least it will be faster. So.
Okay, Ken, this is nice. What is the future of choral competition or composition? What do you think? what is the future of the choral composition?
Let's see. That's a very difficult things to say. Now, let's just say what I felt when I was
Okay.
university student. I was in the United States from year 2000 to 2008, I think.
Mhm.
And then that, of course, two big choral composers, Morton Lordson and Eric Whitaker. Those are very known two composers in the United States. Now, and then you have to determine as a composer which direction you would like to go. You will, whether you would like to go the cluster or not, or those things, you have to kind of determine those things and everything. Now, the internet is still, at the early stages of, development, and then the international distribution is not there yet. So I have to think about all those things. I am a Japanese, so there are potential Japanese buyers, but those are the cultures of different kind of piece structure. Well, let's say United States is a piece-based culture. It's just one movement, core octavo culture. Japan is not. Japan is the choral suite. They will make a suite. And it's a very difficult. Well, right now, it's changing, but it's usually the book. It's a multi-movement pieces. So that's a different things. Now, looking the choral, the world of the choral composition from this point on, it's very difficult because first of all, it's the COVID-19 situation, how long that effect will last. That's the other thing. If this keeps going to the next 3 years, let's say, just like a Spanish flu in 100 years ago, then the amount of new pieces will be, of course, the fewer. And maybe the choral suite is not much of the, like larger pieces, would be very difficult to be produced, I think. So I would say if the COVID-19 persists, I think there's two different kind of the directions. One is go really international, like using a digital technology and everything, the virtual choirs and all those things. But if the virtual choirs, it's very difficult to write a multi-movement piece. So it's at the octavo, the culture will spread, I think. That's the one prediction of mine. Or that the opposite side might be true, which is go completely local. So the local productions are there, but local, competition, those things can go international using YouTube and those things. So that's the other things might be there. But I would say it's a very difficult time to predict in the future. And of course, both sale-wise, business side of it, and so on. So, but, just like any other time and age, the people will write, regardless whether there are outlets or not, because they have to write, because that's the life they follow. So the creative people are creative because if they are not creating, they might not dead, but at least their heart will not live. So they will do something, but unfortunately, so the opportunity might not be there. So they will do something more smaller scale in a way. Maybe like writing a quartet or something, and then make a multi-track recording, and then introduced to the world, just like I did when I was 20 years old, because there are, I just want to, show my compositions to the world without, relying on the choirs. So the more virtual choirs and the multi-track recording, those things will be there, and from which that, special pieces or that the masterpiece might be born. So that's other things that I would predict. So that's that, I think.
Thank you, Kentaro. In the room, there is a short word from Irene. Great input. Because too often teacher destroy the students' artistic voice instead of helping them to develop, find, and love their own voice.
I think that's one of the reasons. Which I felt important, because let me just talk about my background a little bit more. My choral teacher is African American, was the Black American. Now, he always taught me, well, first of all, I'm a composer, so he perfectly knows that more than the choral conductors. But he always told me that you have to have a reason why you do music, and that reason has to come from you, not from others. Now, what he meant is that, of course, let's say you want to perform Bach's piece just because you want to, and then there are certain stylistic those things, and the knowledge and those things must be there. But those other things, those things, little things, is just secondary. The most important thing is why you want to perform Bach's piece, and then there are the ways that you want to go. Certain way of performing Bach's piece, or the reason why you picked certain pieces. There are some other people might say, "Oh, that's not how Bach's, stylistically that the correct or other things, and so on." But it's well, if the reason why you want to perform is that you want to do the stylistically well and so on, that's the other thing. But if the reason why you wanted to perform is that you wanted to perform in your way, that's the most important thing. Now, the composition is also the same. Of course, there's music theories and those things, but within those theories, there are, the different kind of, the recommendations and those things. So if the harmony, in the theory of the harmony, there are things that you recommended, but there are things that you, not recommended. But if the theory changed, those rules changes. And then whatever the things you want to do is ultimately your world. It's your things and what you felt important. If you feel the following theory is important, or that if you feel the following teacher's footstep is important, then follow it. But that's not the reason why probably the one started to compose. They want to compose their own world. They may want to make own world in a way. So that's, I think, it's important. So I always tell my students that if the theory recommends not to do it, but if you think, or that if you feel you like it, then you always have to follow your preferences. That's how you cultivate your own voice. Now, as I said, theory is there, but it's not the world's universal law or something like gravity or something. It's just the music. It's an art, and ultimately it depends on your taste. So, creativity or whatever the things, but ultimately it's your world and what you think best or you likes, and then you must have a confidence to for your own choice and then for your direction. That's, I think, it's a very important. And my teacher always told me, so I try to, communicate the same messages
So
to.
creativity needs to have proper environment in which to helping to foster that environment in the classroom, call students.
Uh-huh.
Responsibility of both teachers and students alike.
Yeah.
So a creative culture is one that is built on trust and communication, right? Yeah, I think, I agree with you that that's the trust and communication.
Yeah, that they feel safe in a way to expressing their own thoughts and ideas.
Built on safety, right.
Okay, then this is perhaps the last question for this session because we are running out of time.
Oh, okay, sure.
We have a question from Agustinus Bambang di sana. Ken, how about creativity in a virtual choir? Because obviously there's a lot of virtual choir right now, right? So
was it the virtual
choir? Virtual choir. Virtual choir. When you sing together, record it, and then get mixed together.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Virtual choir, yeah.
Virtual choir.
Yeah, do you think there's any limitation or limit in the visual presentation, including the audio mixing as well?
Well, well, technically, also the music production is one of my expertise. I own my own recording companies, and then I do my own mixes and so on. Now, the one thing that you have to be that virtual choirs can work on a lot is, of course, the let's say, well, there are lots of things that they need to work on, but the virtual choirs or the recording of it belongs to more on the side of the recording art more than performing arts or the live performing arts. Now, the recording art itself has a very different beast because there are, technological stuff like microphone equipment and other stuffs. And of course, current environment is that doing a practice is very difficult. Now, the more people there are, it takes time to communicate certain expressional, directions. So, in order to do it better for the, virtual choirs, one needs to find appropriate repertoires that fits to the, those recording art itself. That's the one thing. Secondly, that the people must improve how to practice better virtually. And then especially the choral art, the choral directors or the conductors, they really has to know what they want to do, and then just see the direction of it. For example, they really need to specify the breathing point, like really beginning of the practice. Okay, you cannot take a breath here, and so on. So practicing tactics, I think, those needs to be improved. Of course, the production side of it, you need to have better microphones and, of course, the better mixing of those things. But also, you have to think about how you were presenting your room. Now, that's other things. For the most of the time, the room is the most expensive instrument the amateur can afford. If it's a church, well, what is the church? It's just that reverberation are there. But if it's a virtual room, you need to have certain kind of appropriate not the simulation. It's very difficult to have really good room. And then in the recording world, they are saying that the recording, the proper way of doing a recording is you have to have great performance. You have to have a great room, and you have to have a great equipment, and that's that thing. And then you cannot fix in the post. You cannot, if it's a bad performance to start with, you cannot make bad performance great at the end. You have to make it okay, but those things. So, well, it's difficult, but there are ways to do it better. Of course, in the commercial world, there has been in the multi-track recording all the time, like since it's the 70s. So, so there might be the workshop or the whatever the things that I could do to improve those things. But there are lots of things that people must consider. But that at least that one good thing is that those technology is rather within their reach, within our range. It's not hugely expensive. Of course, it's expensive if you want to go the high end, but at least it's manageable in a way. So I'm not sure that I answered that question, but yeah.
Can I say that if you said mindset is the most important aspect to creativity, to be creative, and in virtual choir, technology is the most important aspect to have a good or the better virtual choir.
Well, I would say that technology does help, of course. Yes. How you will use the creativity, how you will use the technology to, to make or to state what you want to say. What exactly you want to say. It's not that, you want to use the technology. No, there are reasons for you to use technology. And then what is the reason you want to express yourself? So that's the, I think, thing. You want to communicate with other people. So, and then, the technologies are there to help. So that's that, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Saint Angela Choir and everyone here today who listened to your talk, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me for this.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us on a very interesting topic of freeing our creativity. Thanks again for your encouragement, knowledge, and of course your wonderful and fantastic choral music.
Thank you.
I'm sure today's talk brings the musical learning. Everyone who have listened your talk, I'm so happy that through your sharing of music, the connection between understanding, learning, and learning is built here, especially today, which you can.
Okay.
On behalf of St. Angela Choir, we hope you and your loved ones are all doing well and also in good health, although we are all facing challenges as a result of COVID-19. Together, we can remain strong and resilient. I remember that the meaning of your Ma'ee, the composition for Japanese people to the victims of the earthquake and tsunami 2011. Embracing everyday's happiness and sadness, one step at a time. We walk forward. So before we end, Andrea will turn the screen. Can you give like a special closing statement to encourage our musical life in this difficult time?
Well, I think some of the times difficulty or those limitations are the reason why we have to be creative in a way. Sometimes those limitations, you have to be really creative. You have to find the solutions to want what you want to do. Ultimately, we will not be given the best environment. No, we're not. So But there are things that you want to do, and there are always the way to accomplish what you can do. Of course, that's not exactly what you imagined, but at least you can walk forward to to aim that goal and start walking. And then that's a very important mindset. And then don't be afraid to walk forward. If you go that way, at least you will find out. You'll find out. Okay, that works, and that might not works, and those things. And it's way better than stop one thing and you don't know anything. But it's way better to at least something, and you try other ways to doing that. And there are lots of ways, at least, and there are lots of other methods, alternative ways. And in this day and age, if you are creative, you will find there are lots of solutions. And then if you go that directions, you will be better at. And without knowing it, you will go beyond, I think. So digitally, maybe, but you will go beyond. So
yes.
Try.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much. Okay, dear friends, we have another virtual choir. The title is Corona Cikilaidio. Corona Cikilaidio, text by Adeline Surnario. She is one of our alumni in St. Angela Choir. Arranged and orchestrated by Nicolas Rio, based on Cikilaidio, Alan Lomax, edit American folk song for children. This Corona Cikilaidio is a piece inspired from our children's current situation during the COVID-19 pandemic. The music is arranged into 6 themes. 1, too much homework. 2, drunk in homework. 3, frustration. 4, acceptance. And 5, the word heals. And the last 6 is a new hope. Live premiere on our YouTube channel, St. Angela Choir, today, 7 p.m. Stay tuned. Okay, Rio.
Okay, so thank you for everyone who have watched SACTalk this evening. We will now end the stream. Please wait for us in the next SACTalk, and we'll wait for you in our premiere of the next song. So thank you and goodbye, everyone. I'll end the stream.
Bye.
Okay, the stream is end. By the way, there is one